It's Tuesday, April 15th at about 8:24 in the morning, and I thought I'd bring you along this morning on my morning dog walk. It's a beautiful morning. It's sunny and probably about 6 or 7 degrees right now, but supposed to go up to about 14 or 15 today after a rather cool long session of wet days here. This route I do each morning is typically about 3.7 kilometers long, and it can take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, 2.5 hours, depending how good the birding is. So at times in May, when the bird watching is really hot, so to speak, I may wander around here quite slowly, documenting everything I can, and that can take over 2 hours. Today it'll probably be about an hour and a half, depending again how many video clips I make and just how good the birding is going. Well, just a few minutes in and I've already got 20 species documented. A lot of this is done by sound. Oftentimes that's a big advantage because many times you can't see the birds, you can just hear them. So as you go along, you can just say, oh yeah, that's this, that's that, this, that, and you don't even have to see them. And that's very helpful, especially when the leaves come out in spring and summer and the birds are often hidden behind the leaves and you can't see them, especially the tiny songbirds. It's a big help to be able to recognize their voices. While there is quite a bit of bird song occurring already in the season, it really maximizes out in late April and early to mid-May. That's when most birds are actively nesting and trying to attract mates and defending territories. So that's the time when you'll hear the most bird song. That's also the time when we have the most number of species in the area, basically. I just heard a red crossbill fly over, and that's typically how I document them right now. They fly over with a distinctive call note. Anyhow, that's a bit unusual because they're not often around here in the winter. They're usually further north up in the coniferous tree zone, but this winter, I guess because of a lack of cones further north perhaps, or maybe it had something to do with all the forest fires last year, there's been a fair number of red crossbills around this winter. And I'm still getting the odd one flying over, so it's kind of interesting to see and hear those as well. At this time of year, I frequently get mallard ducks and wood ducks in these wooded swamps. Anytime now, the northern water thrushes will be returning back to these woods. Usually by mid to late April, probably more so later April, they show up, and we have anywhere from 10 to 15 pairs just along this little stretch of the road, typically, and you can sort of count them by singing as you go along. Nice bird to have. It's amazing how they seem to be able to come back to the exact same location every year. So we've come about 1.5 kilometers in 36 minutes of time. Let's see what we've got here. We've got 29 species at this point. I'll just read them out for those who might be interested. Wood duck, mourning dove, I won't talk about the numbers. Red-shouldered hawk, belted kingfisher, hairy woodpecker, pileated woodpecker, northern flicker, eastern phoebe, blue jay, American crow, common raven, black-capped chickadee, tree swallow, golden crown kinglet, white-breasted nuthatch, brown creeper, European starling, Eastern bluebird, American robin, pine siskin, American goldfinch, field sparrow, dark-eyed junco, song sparrow, eastern meadowlark, red-winged blackbird, common grackle, and pine warbler. And we'll see how high we get by the end of it. That's always a fun thing to do, just to see how far you can go. We're at 29 species, and we're probably only about, well, not even halfway through the walk yet. So we'll see how high it might go. Yesterday, I think I ended up with 38 species. Got a couple hairy woodpeckers over here pecking away on the wood. Also had some yellow-bellied sapsuckers tapping a while ago, but I couldn't get them recorded. There he is. Golden crown kinglet calling up in the treetops here. Not sure if you'll be able to hear any of it. Just after recording that golden crown kinglet up there, I heard a ruby crown kinglet start to sing. That's the first one of this year, so that's a new bird today as well. Or golden crown kinglets calling. Oh, rusty blackbird flying over. It's a new one. You can hear the ruby crown kinglet as well as golden crown kinglets. And the other day I had my first winter wren back here singing. Last year we had a few of them singing at this location and probably nested successfully, I think. Haven't heard them yet today, so maybe that one was just moving through, but the one last year that initially came, he just sat in here singing every day. This part of our trail is quite wet after all the rain we've had. We had about 2 inches of rain last week. That was certainly nice to get because the water levels in the soil were pretty low even after a fairly wet period there, but they're gradually coming up to near normal. Eastern bluebird. Also got pine warblers calling from the tops of the pine trees. There he goes. I'm not sure if that would be audible in here. Raven. There's the pine warbler, that trilling sound, that dry trill. There it is. That might be audible. What a beautiful morning. So nice to see the sun again after several days of not seeing it. Just had my first brown thrasher of the year down here in the sand pit. This is where we often have them nesting because they like the semi-shrubbed areas in and amongst the open areas. Just flew across in front of me here. Wasn't calling or singing, just flew across. They're one of my favorite birds around here. Beautiful, large, rusty brown bird. Very beautiful song once they do start singing. Sort of repeat the same notes twice. Of course, the ever-present and noisy blue jay. Very common on the property. Sometimes have 40 or 50 at my feeders. And they can really drain the seed out of the feeders. Killdeer flying in. So at 9:53 a.m. and after an hour and a half of cruising around the fields and forests, we've hit 40 species with that killdeer. We'll see if we get any more over the last kilometer or so. Less than a kilometer now. I've actually walked a little further today than normal because I had a couple diversions along the way, just small diversions, but we're going to probably be in around the 4 or 4.5 kilometer mark for total distance. And as you can tell, I'm going pretty slowly because the birding has been good and I've been doing video and photography, so that always adds up. Just a gorgeous morning out here, and the wind hasn't really risen to too much of an issue yet, so that's nice. Maybe I'll even get out for a bike ride later this morning or this afternoon. There's the fence line with most of my bluebird and tree swallow nest boxes. And those birds are back, actively looking for a place to nest. You can see some of my tree swallows there on their boxes. Probably got at least 10 swallows down here, or 5 pairs so far. The boxes are a bit close together for my liking, but they seem to use them for the most part without getting into too much territorial issues. That second box in the view here, the gray one, the natural one, is occupied by a pair of bluebirds. But tree swallows have been looking at virtually all the other boxes except for one on the very end of this fence row, which is closer to the trees. Well, it's certainly warming up nice. I'm starting to get warm in this coat, but I wanted it on originally because it was a bit chilly out. But she's warming up fast, so I'm not going to need it much longer. For the last week or two, we've had fox sparrows hanging out in this location. I'm not sure what they really like about it over some of the other forest edge areas, but they've been hanging out in here. Sometimes 4 or 5 of them, as best as I can tell. They're tricky to see sometimes, but they've been calling. They have a high, thin call note, and then they have a beautiful song, which they've also been singing from time to time. I haven't heard it today, but yesterday there was one singing along here. Really beautiful sparrow. It's probably the largest sparrow that we have, and very nice rusty streaks on it, big rusty streaks with quite a bit of gray on the face. So after an hour and 55 minutes and about 4.4 kilometers, I've ended up with 45 species, which is the highest tally I've had so far this year. Generally, the numbers of species of birds start going up in late February, early March here, compared to the winter numbers, and they steadily increase after that point, up until now when the numbers are becoming quite good, and then into mid to late May, when they reach their peak basically. And on a good day around here, you might get over 75 species of birds at that point, or even more if you really want to put some time and effort into it. But I have reached those numbers occasionally on the farm here, just for the farm itself. That's when you get all the warblers coming back from the tropics, and tanagers and other flycatchers, that kind of thing. So it all adds up once spring gets fully underway. Anyhow, hope you enjoyed that tour around the farm, counting the spring birds. Catch you later.